you eliminated that fundamental building block of what the game was and just threw it out the damn window in a technique that most people could learn in 20 minutes. It's dumb. Don't do it. Figure out a way to put the stuff into your UI that people expect. And just don't ever remove a gauge that is crucial to the gameplay. We didn't even freaking have online play. We couldn't even play it online for the longest time. It wasn't even a priority.
Maybe, I'm going to venture and say maybe that was a better time, John. You know, like if I'm honest with you, maybe that was just the way God intended it.
All right, John, we all know I love Street Fighter. It's my favorite franchise of all time. But there are some things I absolutely hate about this game besides Cammy. I need to put that caveat in there.
Oh, you're broadening your horizons. Look at you go.
But with love also comes hate. And here are the 5 things I hated about Street Fighter. And number 1, the lack of teching throws. You know what's worse than thinking you teched a throw? You know what, you're like, hey, I teched that. How many times have you ever heard someone, I teched that?
Our monthly event here in Arizona is called I teched that. And as a Goken player who had a delayed tech and people get thrown into Ultra, right. I heard it maybe more than anyone else on the planet. So I'm familiar.
Yeah, you're definitely. So I love that. I teched that. But you know what? We completely lacked the ability to even tech it back in the day. And it was awful. You could technically do what they called softening of throws in Super Turbo, but you still couldn't outright just tech them and get out of their damage fully, right? Unless you were the computer, and screw the computer AI in that game. But
wait, they could. Oh, well, I see what you're saying.
This is
original Street Fighter 2. They had throws which were hated, right? Like in arcade culture, as I hear.
They were hated by some, and they were beloved by others. I was one of the people who they were beloved to, but I still hated not being able to tech them. I love throwing. I still love throwing. It's one of my favorite things, but you know that very well. But anyway, not only the fact that you couldn't tech throws in Street Fighter 2, the throws were randomly decided if both players inputted the command at the same time and were at the same range and stuff like that. So you know what, just random chance, whoever did the command is going to win here. And since I played Balrog a lot back in the day, that was often Balrog would win very much. So anyway, throws, they did not work close to how they do until the alpha games, and man, that was a pain to deal with.
I want to challenge people to think about this, not in terms of Street Fighter 2 is fine. Like it is. It is what it is. It's a foundational. It's legacy. It's everything. But consider if this kind of a thing were present in a modern game, what that would feel like, how you would react. Because at one point people did go through this, and they didn't have the expectations that they do now. Sure, but it was still there, and there's that fundamental like balance inside of you that when you know something is balanced or not, and you see this, and it's like people can throw you. I mean, I play old Sagat usually. Don't throw stuff at me. When I do play Super Turbo, and he can't tech throws, right? Because he's from a version of the game where you couldn't tech them at all. He just takes them completely. And when I say tech, like you said, it just means that you get thrown and you take like half the damage, and your character lands on their feet as opposed to getting thrown and landing on your butt. But it would be terrible to have that kind of a thing now, unthinkable to have that kind of a thing now, and yet, hey, it was there.
Yep, I lived through it, man. It was terrible. But the number 2 thing, we all complain, John, about the netcode in our favorite games, but there's something much worse than bad netcode, and that's not having the ability to play online at all. Number 2 is no net play. That was a thing back in the heyday of Street Fighter 2, where a lot of people were playing these games. You could not play online unless you bought a modem separately. Shoutouts to X-Band. I love playing on X-Band. That was a great time back then.
I picture you with like some foil and one of those really long antenna, just trying to get it just right before you're gonna go into a match.
That was accurate, actually. Yes,
exactly how it worked. Yes,
it was over dial-up, and it was like using AOLs, like modems, and all that kind of stuff. Like
don't pick up the phone.
That would happen. I'm trying to play a match and stuff against like the number 1 X-Band player. My mom's picking up the line, calling her friend and stuff, and I'm like, well, guess I'm not playing now. Shouts to my mom. Hopefully she's watching this. Love you, Mom. But anyway, better net play needs to be an expectation going forward in fighting games.
Subscribe, John's mom.
Yeah, with strong rollback code that should be given at this point. But you got to go back to the days, John, of we didn't even freaking have online play. We couldn't even play it online for the longest time. Wasn't even a priority.
Maybe, I'm going to venture and say maybe that was a better time. John. You know, like if I'm honest with you, maybe that was just the way God intended it,
God
but
did
maybe
not
not.
intend fighting games to not have netplay, John. I know it. It's written in the Street Fighter Bible. So anyway, number 3 before we get canceled here entirely is removal of the stun gauge. I hated this with the pet. Look at that. Look at this. You see all those well laid out gauges. You can see them on the screen here. We got a little overlay of beautiful third strike. You can see how your character's performing if they're about to get knocked out. Let's just randomly remove some of those because we feel like it's cluttering up the screen. You know, it's like I can compare this to the Titanic where they're like, look, we don't want all the lifeboats on here because they're gonna clutter up the deck. Like, why do we don't want that? We're gonna get rid of it. And so Capcom's like, okay, let's get rid of the stun gauge entirely and then put a character like Sea Viper in the game who does a massive amount of stun. And you know what? You're not going to know if you're on the edge of stun or if you're like, 5 hits away from it and stuff like that because there's no gauge up there anymore.
Okay, but the argument against that would be that this allows for pro players or higher level players to show their skill by keeping a mental count of where the stun should be and knowing that Fei Long, that son of a motherless goat, has extra stun. I played against a lot of Fei Long in my day, and just like keeping a mental track of where it's at, and so that you know when it's coming for, so that you can prepare yourself, but also maybe you cut a combo short so you can get a better stun combo or things along those lines. So I mean, I don't believe what I'm saying right now. I
No,
agree
John,
more
John,
with having the stun gauge, but how do you feel that one?
I feel exactly this way. I brought up religion before. Now you're bringing up politics. You're doing spin doctoring. You would be perfect at Capcom for when they introduce.
I mean, you made a
mechanics
Titanic joke.
This is, it's awful. There's no justification for it, but that's the excuses we heard from Capcom, right? That is the exact stuff. It was just, look, it's dumb. Don't do it. Figure out a way to put the stuff into your UI that people expect, and just don't ever remove a gauge that is crucial to the gameplay and that we've kind of just expected to have. It's just awful.
Support for the Event Hubs podcast is brought to you by MANSCAPED today, which offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. MANSCAPED has just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, and we have an exclusive offer for you today. If you go to manscaped.com, you will get 20% off and free shipping and handling if you use the checkout code EHubsPod when you check out. 20% off, free shipping and handling, and it lets them know that we sent you. And that's a really important part of the process.
Yeah. Manscaped was actually kind enough to send us both the Perfect Package 4.0, which includes not only the Lawnmower 4.0, but also the Crop Preserver, which is an anti-chafing ball deodorant, and the Crop Reviver, which is a ball spray toner. Both of these do wonders below the belt, leaving you feeling comfortable and looking confident. We need to look confident, John, and also smell like you care. And you know what, John? I tried this out with a wife last night, and she liked it.
Ooh.
So if you're trying to please the ladies, this worked on my lovely wife.
We know that the FGC doesn't exactly have the best resume, the best track record, the best perception, let's say, when it comes to hygiene. Well, fair enough. Let's start today. We have an opportunity. We can take a high quality product, and I've been using it. I've been using all of these. I deem them high quality. John, are they high quality?
Yo, they're great. They're
absolutely
great.
20% off, free shipping and handling, and we can begin dismantling a stereotype with the Lawnmower 4.0 and its accompanying ball products. One of the things I wanted to point out about the Lawnmower is it has a ceramic blade, which means less snags, less catching, less cuts, stuff like that. And when you're trimming your balls, that's like one of the most important parts about it. It also has a 4000K LED light, so you can see exactly what you're doing no matter how deep and dark you've allowed your pube pores to grow.
That light is amazing. It is so nice to have. I never knew I needed it until I tried this, and now I'm like, I'm never using anything else without that light on there because it's a ball saver. Also, Manscaped's going to take really good care of our audience out there because they can get 20% off.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, hey, it's a good deal. Just use that code EHubsPod at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Again, just punch in that code EHubsPod. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Balls.
So number 3 is the stun gauge. Number 4, John, a little bit before your time here, but air blocking. Jumping in most fighting games is a high risk, high reward prospect. You might lop off a ton of your opponent's life doing a single successful jump in. But the trade-off is you're usually defenseless if your opponent goes for an anti-air attack. That's a fundamental building block of most, not all fighting games, but most fighting games, that we play. And here comes Street Fighter Alpha, and they said, F that noise. You can block in the air, maybe, sometimes. Now, the rules of actually understanding it are like basically you do have to get that Street Fighter Bible we're talking about and read through all 1,000 pages of it. You might want to skip some of the sections in there, because some of the checkered paths of Street Fighter. But anyway, in the alpha blocking section of it, it explains it. And it's about a 50-page explanation for if you can block in the air or not. It was terrible. It was.
Is it if you hit a button you couldn't?
Well, that was one of the things, but basically if you landed on a fireball, like that was one of the main things back in Street Fighter 2, well, you can now block that fireball. You could block the fireball if you were about to land on it. You could just hold back and boom, you land on the ground. And in some games you could even tech right afterwards. So you could like do a tech roll. You'd land on the fireball, you block it, you tech roll right into the opponent. It was something.
I kind of want to see what that feels like, because how stupid do you feel when you neutral jump a fireball and it's going slower than you expected and you just land on, especially when that ends around. I wouldn't have that shame anymore. I mean, I'm sold.
Yeah, John, let's play some Alpha 2 so I can load up my rows in that game and let's go for it, because you will regret every single bit of wanting to play Alpha after that. But anyway, these were viable strategies in Street Fighter. These were things that you could do, and basically Alpha threw them out the window. I do think air blocking has a place in like a Marvel type game and other stuff, but I never want to see air blocking in a Street Fighter proper game again. Never ever. It is the risk that goes with jumping should always be there. It is a building block of what we expect. I hate it.
Is air parrying okay? Because that's
okay.
Similar waters in Third Strike there. You can't just DP someone that's jumping in at you.
Yeah, but it takes some more skill to do. And if you want to risk a parry and have the potential of having that blow up a little bit in your face, that's okay. That's fine when the risk reward is done well. So all right, number 5, my final one, option selects. You probably knew this one was coming, John. You know how much I hate option selects. And for our audience out there, do you like doing an up, down, down code and entering them throughout the match so that you don't have to make any decisions or like have any kind of thought? Well, that's the whole concept of option selects. That's how they work. They're the most brain dead thing you can find in a Street Fighter game, literally, because doing these required no thought whatsoever. Just if you could input a code, the game would choose literally the best scenarios for you and reward you by offering up that outcome. This is one of the worst concepts you could have in a fighting game, which is a genre which is all about making decisions and having reads on your opponent. Crouching tech, like that is that was around before Street Fighter 4, and it's a side effect of like numerous systems like Capcom introduced and stuff like that. They never intended crouch tech to be like what it became, right? But instead of like either having to decide on like if the opponent's going to attack me and I should block, or they're going to go for a throw and I should try to tech it, you eliminated that fundamental building block of what the game was and just threw it out the damn window in a technique that most people could learn in 20 minutes. And all it is hitting 3 buttons, and sometimes 4 actually for that matter. You get the focus attack tech in there too, but holding down back and hitting 3 buttons, that's it. And most people could learn to do that and mash it out in 20 minutes or so. And it just completely destroyed a fundamental part of fighting games. I hate option selects. I hate them so much if they are a huge part of the gameplay. And that is what Street Fighter 4 was. It was option selects. Like you had option selects to counter option selects.
Which, if that's the case, then doesn't that cancel them out and say, well, then the answer to that is to not do anything at all, and then the option selects are no longer at play at the highest of levels?
No, John, you just keep adding more option selects onto option selects. That's how it worked. You needed option selects for the option selects that the option selects created option selects for. Boom, and you were good. That's how you played Street Fighter 4. I know you didn't play much Street Fighter 4. I know you weren't that good at the game, but that's
I feel like you just hit me with an option select of like, regardless of what I say here, option selects are bad. I don't mind them being gone either, by the way. I'm trying to play a little devil's advocate, little Al Pacino, Keanu Reeves action there, but which is a great movie, by the way. Go see it if you haven't. Yeah, I mean, I I want to say I didn't use them a lot. I used crouch teching a lot, and I
Yeah.
felt the wrath of crouch teching a lot. Because again, playing against the Fei Long player, if you let him crouch tech, he was coming out there with a low short, and that was leading into his like bread and butter combo, which was super lame. Yeah, knowing what I know now about fighting games and appreciating them the way I can, with playing them for like the last 10 years with a lot of intent, it's like that's just too much. It's too, you want to have a little more nuance, you want to have a little more decision making. You don't want robots going at each other, and that's like just a little bit too much when I inputted all of what I'm gonna do, and then regardless of what you do, I picked the right one. Yeah, that's not what we're here to do. So I agree
Yeah.
with you, but I again wanted to do a little Al Pacino on you.
Yeah, no, there's some people who are actually fans of it and stuff, but to me, it's not why we're here. It's not why you play these fighting games.
Well, I would like to hear from the people in the comment section what things they've hated about Street Fighter that they don't ever want to see come back.
Yep. Leave a comment below, y'all.
Comment right
All
in
right.
front of John's face.
That's how they do it anyway. So yes. All right, y'all. That's going to wrap us up for this week of the Event Hubs podcast. Once again, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll be back with you soon.
See you later.